probably wouldn't be talking about 20 years ago, we probably wouldn't be talking about using cell phones like this, right? So if 20 years ago, we're talking about the cell phones that are very small, right? At the time, it was still talking about, very slim, very small cell phones. So at that time, the idea and the design ideas for cell phone will be vastly different now. Therefore, that ideal was not able to be continued because it was discontinued, because it fell out of favor, right? So the whole idea of being able to be sustainable is that these teachings must matter in order for it to be continuously be remembered. If these teachings do not matter in the current world, then it's going to disappear. It's going to not matter, and it's going to disappear. So for the disciples to carry on the torch, they would need to make sure that it matters, that it continues unto the next generation. And therefore, in order for it to be for it to continue to be mattering in the society, it must adapt. It must adapt to the current society. It must adapt to solving the problems of the society. It will not matter if all you say is some very, very high level teachings that it does not help any of us, right? It doesn't matter how good the teaching is. If it doesn't help the people that's listening to it, it will be lost. It will be gone. It will disappear. Therefore, the teaching itself needs to be real, it needs to be sustainable, and it needs to be adaptable to the generations, to the people that's also changing, right? And lastly, it needs to survive the test of time, right? You might think that it's adaptable, but it's going to take 100 years to adapt. Well, guess what? You don't have 100 years. Maybe through that 100 years, the writings and all the histories of it are gone. So you can't survive through time, and that's not going to help. So you can tell that this is very important, that Buddha's time was running out. So his followers needs to make sure that the teachings can be passed on correctly. It needs to be passed on continuously. It needs to be able to adapt, to fix the problems that people are facing at different time and generation. And it needs to survive the different challenges and all the different contexts that it's going to face. That's what it's going to be. And that's the backdrop. That's the context. That is the backdrop of generation at the time of Buddha's teaching of Sutra of Infinite Meanings. Now we know the backdrop. We're going to continue on, and then we're going to say, oh, so who was there? Who was there in audience? And now we're talking about these people. And these are what's called the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas. And these people are essentially the very, very close followers of the Buddha. These are the very close followers. The 80,000 Bodhisattva Mahasattvas are the very close followers of the Buddha. They are the champions of Buddha's teaching. They have carried the teachings themselves by embodying the teaching in their own lives, as well as they are teaching these teachings to more students. So it's not only the Buddha that is teaching, but also these Bodhisattva Mahasattvas are the ones also spreading the teaching by teaching the same ideals to more and more people. And these are the very, very close followers that have achieved greatness. So in this chapter, we learned about why they have become so great. How did they learn what the Buddha had taught them? And then they have achieved greatness. Essentially, we're looking at the biography of these great past sages and saints. And then we're learning why they are so great. How did they achieve such greatness? So we're looking at their stories, and then we're finding out that they are so great because they're able to have the forbearance, the endurance, the perseverance in order for them to achieve such greatness. So all these are wonderful properties that these great sages of the past have. That's how they're able to become so great. That's how they're able to follow the Buddha, the Grand Master and the Lord Buddha, and then learn from the Buddha, because they are able to endure through all these challenges and difficulties. They are determined with strong will, and they also have this very clear and tranquil mind. They foster wisdom to be able to learn and be able to absorb the teachings that the Buddha had given them. So that's why these are called the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas. So, so the next subsection talking about these Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, how did they attain great wisdom? Understand all the Dharma. So this section is spread into two parts. How did they achieve greatness? And what do you do, right? What do you do after achieving greatness? So these are all still following the footsteps of these Bodhisattva Mahasattvas. What did they do to get themselves to be where they are, right? Not just talking about the perseverance, not just talking about hard working, not just talking about endurance. You need all of that, but that's not enough. You also need to have a particular teaching or particular set of discipline in order for you to be able to achieve greatness. Just by endurance and just by perseverance alone isn't enough. You need to have the precepts. You need to have this clarity of mind. You need to have this great vow and unwavering vow. And that's what this section talks about, right? How do you get there, right? So we are presented with all these wonderful sages, right? 80,000 Bodhisattva Mahasattvas. They are the great champions of Buddha's teaching. They are the great followers and disciples of the Buddha. They are the ones that inherited most, if not all, of the great wisdoms of the Buddha. And they are the number one go-to people for sharing and spreading the teaching. So how did they get there? Well, obviously, there's a lot of cultivation. There's a lot of work to be done, to self-reflection, to self-discipline, to determination and diligence, etc. Right? But most importantly, what did they do after achieving greatness? They not only learned to be great, they learned to become a good disciple, but they also learned to become a good teacher. So not only did they learn from the Buddha, the great wisdom, they apply this teaching to themselves and achieve greatness, but also they apply what they learn and they spread and teach what they learn to others. In essence, they mature from a student under the Buddha to become the teacher of the Buddhist teachings. And that's what they did. Okay, so in chapter 1, we have also talked about the 12 links of causes and condition. And what are these 12 links? What is this about? And essentially, through this very complicated drawing, it's essentially a checklist. It's a checklist for every one of these Bodhisattva Mahasattva. In fact, for all the disciples of the Buddha. This is a checklist of the Buddha's disciple to be able to identify where am I lacking? Where am I needing some more help? Where am I needing some more work? This is essentially a 12-point checklist to make sure that have I gotten all the work done? If not, then I need to work more. And this is a chain. This is what's called a link, right? Everyone is linked to the next one. Everyone is linked from the one before. And what that means is if you're able to work on something to break that, you will be able to break the chain. You will be able to break the chain from ignorance, and you could do that. So for all these 80,000 Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, they are working very hard. In fact, most of them have already gotten out. They're able to be completely liberated from this chain of 12 links. And so this is, as I mentioned, this is something like a homework where they are now using this to look upon themselves, to pinpoint and identify where in their cultivation or where in this path did something go wrong, and then they are able to come and fix it. So this 12 links is essentially a checklist for you to fully diagnose yourself. It's almost like, when you go to have a body checkup, a full physical checkup, right? So they have all these metrics For example, you have the BMI, you have your different blood chemistry work, right? All these different numbers that's there, right? They have different ratios, percentage, etc., right? And these numbers give you some averages of a healthy adult. What should the numbers be? And if your numbers falls out of the range, then it gives you a red number that tells you something is wrong. Same idea. The 12 links is a physical checkup for these cultivator and practitioners. These are the 12 spots where you can identify which one of these 12 did you get marked red. When you fully diagnose the illness, then you will be able to know what the necessary treatment is. For example, if you know that your BMI is out of a regular healthy proportion percentage, then you know that perhaps it's obese. Perhaps we don't call it fat, right? We call it obesity, right? Obese or morbidly obese, right? That means it's horribly obese, right? So very bad, right? You're completely out of whack, right? Or completely even worse. So at different stages, different red numbers will represent a different cure, a different fix. Same idea here. The 12 links presented here is like a checklist for everybody to fully diagnose themselves. And then they're able to figure out, what am I weak in? What am I not doing so good in? What are the areas that I need to focus on to make sure that I fix the problems? Okay, so that's the 12 links, right? Providing the different treatments, right? And this diagnosis, amazingly, this diagnosis doesn't just work for yourself. And that's what the Buddha was explaining to everybody. You not only learn this for yourself to apply, you actually learn this so that you can teach to more people so that they could do the same test themselves. It's almost like you have gone to a full physical checkup, right? And you understand the idea and how is BMI calculated? Then you go home and you share with your family, right? You use your you measure the blood pressure and then you figure out what is the good number, and then you do this for your family, for your friends, because you know what is a good number and you know what is a warning, the number that gives you some warning. And so now you are able to not only diagnose yourself, you're now able to help others. That's what Buddhism is really about. It tells you some teachings, and you use that teaching, apply it to yourself, and you get some good thing out of it. Then you become so good at it that you're able to teach and share to other people. That's what's important, right? So this diagnosis, the 12 links and the treatment can be applied to yourself, and you could also pass it on to others so that they can do the same. Now, last month, we talked about the great guiding teachers for all sentient beings. So we talk about the 80,000 Bodhisattva Mahasattvas, right? All these are teachers in training. They are the great followers of the Buddha. They are the next in line to take the position to share and spread the teachings. And so they must become good teachers themselves. However, was everybody born to be a good teacher? No, no one is born a good teacher. No one, just like no one is born a leader, right? Yes, there are natural born leaders with certain charisma, with certain personal attributes, etc. Yes, but there are things that you got to learn too. So in section 5, we talk about the great guiding teachers for all sentient beings. And this particular section talks about how do you be a good teacher. And the reason why this chapter is so important, remember, all these things must make sense together. These chapters are not standalone chapters. They are progressions of time. At first, it tells you the backdrop of time and history. Then it tells you that these are the people that are the followers of the Buddha. Why are they important? Because the Buddha's time is running out. You are going to need a lot of people that's going to learn the teachings, apply the teaching to themselves, and then spread the teaching to others. In essence, you're going to need a lot of students to become teachers. So in order for them to become good teachers, they must be good students first. So how do you be a good student? Well, there's a checklist you need to do. If you're able to pass these tests, then you are a good student. But an even better student is not only are you able to pass the test, but you know exactly how to solve each one. There are 12 links. You know exactly how to solve every one of links. Every one of the problem you're able to solve. Even though you pass it and you can solve it, but now you have to be a good teacher. You might be a good student, but it doesn't make you a good teacher. And this is something that I have very, very strong feelings about. Because I just remember in my college years, right? My university professor, they are probably the smartest guy, the most intelligent guy that I probably ever know. Except they're not good teachers. So do you think that I blame them for my not doing well in school? Perhaps. I blame myself too, but I think they also share some blame also. But I don't think their interest is in teaching. Their interest is more about their research, their project, their paper, their publication. They're not so much interested in teaching. But anyway, that's a different story. Okay, so in this section, last month, we talked about the importance of being a good teacher. There are 4 attributes that were talked about in this section in the book on how to be a good teacher. Number 1, you need to be a great field of blessing. What does that mean? Whoa, Joe, what are you talking about great field of blessing? Are we talking about agriculture or are you talking about religion? I cannot understand what's a great field of blessing. What does that mean? It means that you need to provide the students with the capacity to practice. You can't just tell them something and then they will just learn it and then they will just be able to do it. No, they need to practice, right? So these 4, remember, practice, reliance, medicine king, and tamer, right? So what are they, right? Number 1, practice field. You must be able to let your students practice. And therefore, in Buddhism, that's what the teacher had to do. You must find a way for the students to be able to practice. And that's what Master did so well, right? She created Tzu Chi Foundation. She knew that everybody has compassion, but you can't just put compassion in words. You can't just put it in your mouth and then you say, now I'm compassionate. No, you need something to do to practice and elevate your compassion. You can't just tell people, I am 100% compassionate. It doesn't work. You have to have something to work. And that's why the practice field is important. A good teacher will provide a field, will provide a place where you can practice and learn. Number 2, when the student is needing some relief, some protection and support, the teacher is there too. And this is not talking about teaching you specifically about the subject that you're teaching, right? A math professor teaches math, but the professor can also provide relief at the time of your needs, right? You all of a sudden, you might not do so well on the previous exam in physics, but the math teacher knew about it. So the math teacher came over and provided relief and support. That's what teachers do. It's not just be really good at the subject, but provides you with ways to practice and provides you with relief, protection, and support. Number 3, medicine king, right? What does a medicine king do? Diagnose the problem and give you the medicine. That's what it does, right? So a good teacher knows the problem of the students, knows the good parts about the student, and knows about the bad parts of the student, knows how to correct the student's bad part, and knows how to elevate the good parts of the student. That's very important. If you cannot see the talents in the potentials of the student, then you cannot possibly be a good teacher, right? And not only that, you have to make the student happily taking your medicine, okay? That's what this part is about. Tamers, okay? Making sure that you're able to inspire all the students so that they're able to overcome their own vices, right? Oh, I'm too tired. I don't want to learn. I don't feel inspired to learn. All of that, you are supposed to help them elevate through all of that, right? So that's what the story so far is, right? Story so far, The Dharma needs to be passed on, and it needs to adapt to the world. Disciples need to continue the teaching to the future. That's very important, right? All the great disciples have the responsibility to ensure the continuation of the teachings. How? You have to be perseverant, you have to be endurant, you have to have clear and tranquil mind, you have to form aspiration, etc., right? And then learning all these things, right? You absorb all the learning yourself as a disciple. Now you need to be a good teacher. Now you need to teach what you've learned. And you have to also learn how to be a good teacher, right? So the teaching help us locate the problems. This is the 12 links, this checklist, and fix the problem, right? And medicine is very specific to each problem. That's what we're talking about so far. So today, this month, and I got about 10 minutes, that's fine. This month, the reading is a lot shorter, and the reading is actually very straightforward. So I will go through today's sharings in the more brief and more understanding way, because it's a lot straightforward. Okay, so this month we're talking about the sixth one. All the great bhiksus were arhats. Okay, so I am not going to go into the definition of arhats because I want everybody to see the big picture. I don't want people to just focus on one word and figure out, oh no, I can't understand. Where are we? We're talking about the context. Lord Buddha is running out of time. He had taught for 40 plus years. And we realized that doesn't matter how long he teaches, doesn't matter how long he teaches, he's one day going to leave this world, right? He's going to, just like any one of us, right? The Lord Buddha doesn't have longer life. He has, just like one of us, right? So he lived to the age of 80. Which was long age at the time of 2,500 years ago. But it was a long age, but he still had to, it's just life and death, right? This is the law of nature. So he knew that not only does he have to teach, but he had to make sure that he teach the students to become the teachers. No longer are these students forever going to be the students. They have to one day become the teachers. And in fact, that one day is coming very soon. And therefore, Buddha had to make sure they all reach the status of becoming good teachers, good guiding teachers. So that's the only possibility. That's the only way that the teaching can be passed on, because these great students are also great teachers. Without great teachers, not have future generation of good students. So the students now must be prepared to become good teachers. So who can be good teachers? That's what this chapter is about, right? The heading says all the great bhiksus were arhats. What that means is they're all good teachers, okay? Wonderful students. They learn to be able to do all these things, but they're also great teachers. So I've broken down this into 9 parts, which we'll be able to go through them very quickly, because the first 7 are all character sharings, right? Character stories. We start with number 1, Sariputra, 2, Madhyayana, 3, Aniruddha, 4, Upali, 5, Ananda, 6, Rahula, and 7, Kalapaka. Okay, so these are 7 different characters that were mentioned in the book. There were more mentioned, but I picked these 7, trying to basically weave a story so that we get the understanding of who can be good teachers and why. Number 8 and 9 are the ultimate goals, right? The ultimate goals of becoming good teacher. But let's go through who can be good teachers and why. So number 1, we're gonna go into the first 4. So Sariputra, the story, he was the foremost in wisdom, basically the wisest, or proclaimed to be the wisest of all the disciples, right? But why is he the wisest? Why? According to what the stories that were taught to us, he was born that way. I would like to tell you, I would like to share with you. For me, I like to think that we were born a certain way, but our wisdom and our EQ or our IQ were actually something that we could work for, okay? We could try to get better at it. And I think Shariputra's story actually talks about this. In the book, it was talked about when he was born, he was already, very smart, very wise. He was able to win all the debate at a very young age. But I think the true wisdom, his wisest part, came from the fact that he knew that through his first teacher, he knew what he learned wasn't enough. He knew the inadequacy of his own wisdom. I think that was what the true wisdom is really talking about. He knew that the teacher that he had followed didn't give him all the answers that he was seeking. So he knew something was still there. It wasn't done. That was true. Okay, that was number one part. The first part to his true wisdom. The second part to his true wisdom is the moment he hits that true teaching, he knew it right away. So I really think that, being wise isn't, like born with it. It's I don't know if it's really innate to it, but I really think that to be wise is, number one, you don't know enough, right? Number two, the moment you hear something that's important, you got it. Like, oh, this is important, I want to keep it. Wisdom. Okay, so I think he's got them all. He's got both of these true aspects. I think that marks that marks true wisdom. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share about Shariputra, right? That's what I got out of his story. I mean, the story was great. It's great reading, light reading. It's not very difficult. It's light reading. But I think true wisdom comes from knowing that you are inadequate, and then knowing when you hear something that's tremendously important, it's important. Okay, so you don't miss it, right? So you're inadequate, and something is important, so you don't miss it. Number two, Madhyayana. Okay, so he was the one with the foremost in supernatural power. But I think his true power, his story demonstrates a true power. Number one, we all have superpowers. And this is not to say that you get to fly, or you get to change time and freeze time, and all of those superpowers that we see in all these superhero movies. But I think what this is trying to say is, if we work hard at it, we all have our superpower. You work especially hard, you are very good at something. You work hard at it, you will get that power. Okay, so we all have that. But even more so important, none of these powers can supersede the true power, which is karmic cycle. And that's what the story talks about, right? Even though he has the supernatural power, but he knew the karmic cycle itself, he cannot escape, not even when he has all these superpowers. So the true power lies in yourself. You can do it, but nothing what you can do can supersede the true power itself, which is the karmic cycle. What that means is, if you plant the seed of an apple, you are going to get an apple tree. You can't plant the seed of an apple and get a watermelon. That doesn't work. Even if you re-engineer the soil and all of that, you can't change that, right? You can't. Now people would say, no, but I can do bioengineering, I can do genetic engineering, I can now make it. Yeah, you are doing something to change the outcome, but you're not changing the cause and the effect itself. We're going to talk about more of that in the future. But the true power lies in karmic cycle. Number three, Anuruddha, right? True sight. This is the one where he lost his eyesight, right? So very important. Cherish the teaching with diligence, but need to take care of your body, right? He was being very stubborn. He was being told by the Buddha that you fell asleep. You didn't cherish the teaching, right? So he made sure that he cherished it, and he did a little bit overboard. Eventually, he hurt his eyesight, and now he became blind. But because of this, he gained true sight. See beyond what an eye see. And I think that's true sight. We learn. In order for you to become a good teacher, you need to see beyond what your eye sees. And that's very important. Upali, right? This was a royal hairdresser who was a low class, but he became an equal practitioner, a practitioner of equal status just with anybody else, right? And he was a devout follower of the precepts. These are the stories. They're talking about all these, the great teachers, the role models for great teacher. And what did it tell you? None of them are perfect. None of them are perfect, but they all did something to make up for their imperfection. They all do something to fix their problems. Just like what we're talking about in Medicine King. In order to be a good teacher, you must first figure out what is it that you're inadequate about. Then you make something to make up for it. That's what every one of these are. They're not perfect. They're not, perfections. They're not like the Buddha. Yet they are going to be good teachers because they're just like us. They made mistakes too, right? Aniruddha, how can you be so stubborn to not wanting to rest when your teacher tells you, don't damage your body, this is not good for your eyes? He still just refused to shut his eyes, and eventually inflammation and then causing his eyesight. That's foolish. But he showed his adamant heart, and he learned true sight. Don't see things with your eyes. He teaches us something different, okay? So 5, 6, 7, let's continue. Ananda, true servant, right? This is the part where Ananda says, I will be the attendant to the Buddha only if you let me make sure that I learn the past. I need to make up for the past 20 years that I did not follow. And I think this is very important, right? True servant, right? It's not just attending to what you need right now, but it's to understand your teaching, right? It's to understand and try to be devoted. If I'm going to be an attendant, I need to make sure that I know what your requests and what your needs are, right? So Ananda said, I need to know the past. All of us, we're newcomers to Tzu Chi, right? So we're doing this, we're participating, we're being very happy. But it's also our own responsibility to learn more about Tzu Chi's past, all the great things, all the memories, all the past history that Tzu Chi is all about, right? We need to do that, right? And then his request, I do not want to wear the clothes that other people offer to Buddha, and I do not share the same food that the Buddha ate. Why? I want to avoid any unnecessary confusion. I am not the Buddha. I am just the attendant of the Buddha. That's it. So whatever the treatment the Buddha gets, I will not get. And this is so wonderful. This shows character, right? True to his role. He knows he's an attendant. He knows he memorizes the teaching. He recites the teaching, but he is not the teacher. That role itself is a good character to be a good teacher. So this is amazing, right? They are all sharing with you. These are imperfect people, right? They all screwed up before. They all made mistakes, but they're all good teachers. And all this section is really telling you that these are all imperfect people, but they can make great teachers. And so can you. You can be a good student if you're like them, and you can be a good teacher if you're like them. Rahula, the son of the Buddha, and Master in the story talks about that he was an obstacle to both himself, and his mother, right? The true heritage. What is the true heritage? There are always going to be obstacles. There are always going to be problems, right? To self and others. That's just part of the journey. Rahula's name basically means obstacles. This is to share with you that no matter what, even when you're the Buddha, you're going to get obstacles, right? That's the true heritage. We're always going to inherit obstacles. That's the part of life, right? But they are the resources for us to advance. They are the ways for us to get better and make progress. All right, Kulapatka. This is another amazing story, right? The issue isn't the capability. It's not about how smart you are. It's not about how wise you are, but are you willing to learn and try? That's the key, right? So basically, Kulapatka is the one that sweeps. He cannot even recite, cannot even remember the teachings, but that's okay. The Buddha shares something that's very simple and straightforward, and you just basically sweep the floor and make sure you don't just sweep the floor. And he gets it, right? So it's not, and even he can be a good teacher. So it's not about how smart you are, but how much you're willing to learn. No more leaks. What does that mean? Each disciple, each one of the ones that we just talked about, the great 80,000 Bodhisattva Mahasattva, each one of them has to confront their own issues. has to find their own solution. Everybody becoming a great teacher must, before that, confront their own issues, finding solutions before they can complete to become a good teacher. So no more leakings. They understand my issue, I can fix my own issues, right? Everyone has his or her own work ahead of them. That's how everybody is. None of the 7 people that you talk about are perfect. They all have their issues, right? People like them, people don't like them, even though they're great Arhats, they're great Bhiksus, they are great role models, but they are not perfect. Yet they eventually become the great teachers that we have today. So finishing this work is just the beginning. No more leaks, but that's just the beginning of being a good teacher. True liberation, because you are not just knowing the cure. You don't just know the mathematics, right? But you can apply the mathematics and then teach this teaching to others. That's true liberation. Not just applying to yourself so you can make yourself better, but also format it so you can teach other people so that they also become what you learn. Okay, so who can be good teachers? That's what this chapter is all about. They give you, about 10 people, and I pick up 7 to share with you. None of them are perfect, but they offer something that we can share and understand, which is you must confront your own issues. Everybody's got their own issue. That's just part of the journey. However, that's our job and responsibility to overcome those issues, or at least find a solution too. And only then will we be able to become good teachers and passing on the teaching. So imperfect, but all has a potential to be good teachers. Doesn't matter how smart you are, doesn't matter what is the task, how high level or how highly educated you are, it doesn't matter. You have to be willing to learn. Through the journey, learn to adjust and make up for the deficiency, making progress on self-betterment. That's what this is all about. Accumulating experience and knowledge to teach others so then they can self-adjust and self-improve. That's what teachers are, right? So that's what this chapter is about. And that's my sharing for today. So I hope you know that the Sutra of Infinite Meanings is really just that. At the time when the Buddha needs to pass the teachings, he needs good students, but he even needs more teachers. He needs people to understand the teaching, and he needs people to spread the teaching. But how do you spread the teaching? You must first understand the teaching itself. That means you're a good student. Next, you have to be willing to become a good teacher. You listen, you let them practice on you, and you be there for them. You are reliant. You are able to offer protection, support for them. And not only that, you're able to teach them how to become a good teacher and let them know, let everybody know, I am not perfect either. I might be a teacher, but I'm not perfect. But this is what I did to overcome my problem. This is what I did. You might have a different problem. You might have a different solution, but the idea is the same. See a problem, overcome it. I did it, so can you. And if you need help, I, as a teacher, will come and help you. That's what this is about. That's what Buddhism is really about. Self-betterment through togetherness, through community, a community of Sangha, a community of people who work for each other to help each other cultivate and become better selves. That's my sharing for today. Thank you all, and I hope that we all become better, the better part of ourselves, and we can all become the good teachers one day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brother Joe. Thank you very much. So I think we are moving to the next stage. We're moving to a Q&A session. I'm trying to put up my PowerPoint, but let's move into Q&A. Any brother or sister have any questions that they would like to ask? So meanwhile, a very big thank you to Brother Joe. I think this lesson is a very good recap of what we have learned. And I think the key thing that I have learned today will be a case that we learn, we're willing to learn, but we must do our job to pass Dharma on, right? That's the role of a Buddhist disciple. That's the role of the Jingsi disciple as well. And we must have the courage to put up the first step so that we'll move to the second step and third step. All right. So let's open up the Q&A to everybody. So feel free to either put up your hand or just yell and say you have any other questions. Okay, right. Open to everyone. Thank you. I don't think we hear anything in case Jing Si Tang is putting some questions, because usually every time we do have problem listen able to hear Jing Si Tang, just for info. Yeah.
Okay, Brother Qinghui, can you hear us from Jing Si Tang?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Well, our students here are all very, they have received the teachings very clearly, and they don't have any questions. So I guess Brother Huang is a great teacher. So he managed to impart the spirit and the teachings of this book. Okay, I guess one of the key points that we learned today is that the willingness to learn is more important than the capabilities, because every one of us has different capabilities. Okay, we may have high IQ, low IQ, doesn't matter. The important thing is the willingness to learn. So as we come into Tzu Chi, this organization, you realize that there are many opportunities for us to learn. Okay, we can learn to be, to take up different roles. This is on this PC. So we can learn to, take up certain roles where we would need to have certain skills, or we also can learn how to improve our communication interaction with others and to be in a team. So just like to encourage everyone, in Tzu Chi, take it as this is just like a place where you can come and be a better person, like a self-betterment, like what Brother Joe mentioned. So how to be a better person is really through learning, practicing, and doing it, and taking actions, and reflecting back, and keep on, going through these cycles until we get better and better. So do not be afraid to take up any functions or any roles, or when you have been asked, or you're tasked to do certain thing, or to even share your own experience. Because through sharing, you're actually teaching others as well. Because when others hear your sharing, when you share about your experience, the listeners, they will also gain certain, they will have gained certain insights, or will be able to relate to your sharing to with what they have experienced themselves. So in a way, you are also indirectly, you're also a teacher when you're doing your sharing. Okay, so just share what you have learned, or share what you have experienced, what you have went through. You're not sharing something fantasy on that has not happened, but you're sharing what you have actually experienced. So yeah, the willingness to learn is very important. In Tzu Chi, you are always given the opportunity, regardless of your capabilities, okay, to take on the responsibilities and to learn something. Okay, the other thing is the knowing our inadequacy. I guess this is also very important. Personally, I know my inadequacy. I'm not, at times, I will lose my balance. Okay, I will feel overwhelmed, and then I might even be, might even lose my temper, in certain situation. So realizing this inadequacy and realizing that we still have these habitual tendencies to react to people, to what others says, and to the speech and action and to our thoughts. So these are the things that we we can work on. It's a work in progress. And these are the things that once I realize it, then I will try to stop it from continuing, okay, stop the cycle, and then try to reverse it and see how I can improve the situation and not having it escalate to become worse. So try to dial it down, dial it back, become a more peaceful, try to regain the peacefulness, the calmness, and so that we can have better clarity and we can deal with the issue or deal with the issue at hand and in a more wiser ways. Okay, just like Sariputra. Okay, but we are not as wise. But then again, the master says that wisdom can be accumulated. Okay, so throughout the journey, we can actually accumulate our wisdom. Okay, so not sure whether Brother Joe still have some time. So I have a question for Brother Joe, is that regarding the law of karma, the karmic cycle. So we all know that this is something that we cannot supersede, this law of karma, because of what we have done in the past, in our past lives, and the seeds we have planted. So when the conditions ripen, we have to face the consequences or the retributions. Okay, so my question is that there are people who thinks that it is not fair. It's not fair that they have to deal with the retributions or face the consequences of what they have done in the past lives when they don't even know who they are in the past lives or what they did. So they feel that in this life, when they're having a certain obstacles, hindrances, or they're facing with some calamity, sufferings, or problems, and if we tell them that, oh, this is due to your karma, your past lives, because this person may not have done anything bad in this life, but it's due to his past lives and what he have done in the past that he has to face the retributions in this life. So you may think that it's very unfair, and he doesn't even know what he have did in the past. And so how do we explain to people with such thinking, such mindset? How do we let them understand that you have to accept your karma, but then you still have the opportunity to improve yourself, to sow good blessings, to sow good karma, and to form good affinities. Okay, so the mental affliction here is that the thing is not fair. It's not justifiable. So maybe Brother Joe can enlighten us about this.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Andrew. I think this is a question that's going to be asked throughout, and that's understandable, because just to answer it with life is not fair, it's very difficult to receive, to accept, right? So first of all, is this person rational? Is this person reasonable? Can you reason with this person? Because when you say life is unfair, well, that's not the answer that I want to hear. However, you tell him life is fair. What does that mean? It's unfair. I didn't do anything. It still got to me. Well, life is fair in that all the people that you see, they all go through the same rules. It's not just you, right? You didn't know what you did, but you got this treatment. Well, look at the other guy, John, right? He's also getting something that he didn't realize he did. Same thing. It's fair to everybody. To you, it might not be fair because you didn't realize it. But this is the playing rule that applies to everybody. Now you know the rule. Now, do you want to play by the rule? If you didn't know the rule and you break it, that's not your fault. But now I tell you the rule and you keep on crying foul, is not going to make anything better. So that's why it's important. Is this person rational? Is this person reasonable? If this person is not reasonable, then you can stop right there because you can't reason with them. But if this person is reasonable, you tell them that is just the law. It's just the way that the universe works. Now you know the rule. Are you going to go with it or are you going to go against it? Crying foul isn't going to change the rule unless you can prove to me that crying foul does work. Otherwise, I suggest everybody just start working to make a better future. If that person is reasonable and rational, they will probably listen to this and say, oh, okay, well, tough luck. Okay. Now that's my rationale because I lack compassion. I don't have the compassion to say, oh, that's such a pity. Oh no, let's do something better. Oh no, God has much better things in store for you. I'm a realistic person. I know that there are things that I cannot change. For example, why am I fat? Why am I short? Why am I not as tall or not as talented like, Michael Jordan? Why am I not like them? You can bitch and moan all you want. That's not going to change how tall you are, right? But what can you do? What can you do right now, right? You can bitch and moan, or you can focus on what you're really good at. If you're good at math, focus on it, right? If you're good at public speaking, do more at it, right? Focus on the things that you know you can do well in, because complaining isn't gonna get you anywhere, right? So once again, it goes back to, is this person coming to you really complaining, or is this person giving a philosophical, rhetorical question like, oh, is the law of karma real? Is there something that you want to debate? Or is this person really upset because his life is just really unfair? Now, if it's rational and reasonable, then I would just make sure that before you didn't know the rule, so you might make the mistake, right? Now you know the rule. Are you going to still make the mistake, or are you going to work at it and eventually get a better outcome? And that's what I would do. So can I prove that the law of karma does exist? In my mind, I don't know if I can prove it, but I believe it. And I think in all religion, there's always talking about a leap of faith. That means not everything can be proven in today's scientific standard. Not everything can be proven. Does God exist? That doesn't need to be proven, because all it takes is the leap of faith. Once you take that leap, then everything else goes from there. You can make your judgments based on that point. If you believe in the law of karma, good, work on it. If you don't believe it, then there's no point for you to follow the rule. But then don't bitch and moan when it doesn't go your way, because you didn't believe it and you didn't follow it. So I'm a realistic person. I'm a rational person. And if I cannot prove it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or it is not true. It just means I cannot prove it. But I chose to believe. You can choose to believe or you can choose not believe. I choose to believe and I choose to follow the path. Because that's the rule, I will follow the rule. That's what I'm going to do. So I think there are always going to be different rationales to be given to different questions. But that's how I essentially persuade myself. If there is a law that says law of karma, I can't prove it, but I choose to rather believe it. Because in the lack of anything that disproves it, I think that the possibility of this law existing and being real is much, much higher. And not only that, but people that are much, much, much wiser than me chose to believe it too. So I not only cannot disprove it, but I also believe in the wisdom of those people that are much wiser than me. They chose to believe, so I also choose to believe in their wisdom. So I might not be the wisest person to choose this path, but I know somebody wiser has chosen this path. So I'm willing to follow their path, and I'm willing to believe in their wisdom, and I'm willing to believe that this is the law of the law of karma that's really there. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Brother Joe and Brother Andrew's question. I think there's a question in the chat room that says that, oh, well, I find it hard to, all right.
I find it very hard to convince myself to learn and practice to be a good teacher when I see my own flaws. And I also have a fear of reaching out to people, especially finding those difficult people or those who already have a bad impression of me. Okay, that's very true. And I'm gonna get back to Khadib. I'm gonna do a short reply. to Sister Yao. And I think that's what today's session is about. None of them are perfect. All those disciples, if you go into Shariputra's stories, there's a lot of negative stories about him, okay? And he's the foremost in wisdom. I always look at him and I go like, are you kidding me? This guy is supposed to be the wisest, but all the stories that pass on about him mostly are negative, And so, but the thing about him is that he knew he was imperfect. And he even said some things that are very dull-headed. But the point is, he knew that he wasn't perfect. He knew that he wasn't, there yet. That's why he continues to be the dull-headed person and continue to ask questions, continue to be willing to lead. I myself am not perfect either. No one here is perfect. Even Master herself talks about that she's still learning a lot of things, right? There are times when, like Brother Andrew said, right? The emotions got the better of her. That happens too, right? But you have to be able to look, have the courage to look at it, because other people might not like it, but you must accept it. Not accept it as in, this is bad, it smells bad, I don't like it, but that's part of you, and overcome it. And that's what I think today's session is talking about. None of these people are perfect, but they all find a way to get through them. They all find a way to overcome that obstacle. And there are going to be times when there are going to be people around you to help you get through to the flaws. You just have to focus on what you're really good at, right? Focus on what you're good at. Focus on what you really, truly good at doing, right? You're a good volunteer. You do all these things, and you do good rap by doing this. Continue. There might not be good things. There might not be things that you don't do so well. Well, no one's perfect, but you have to continue to work at it. Okay. So especially handling those people that have negative comment impressions of you. That's why it's important to foster good relations, good affinity, right? Reaching out to people, trying to offer your kindness, trying to offer your help. That's something that's going to change people's impression of you. And that's what this environment that we're all in. Let me just share with you very quickly that Tzu Ji is the place where you are able to foster good relations. You come here with good intention. Try to offer your kindness, offer your help, not just to the people that need help, but also to each other. You are going to foster very quick, good affinity with this group of people that will give you confidence. That's what I did too. I wasn't a very, I didn't have many, I wasn't a very famous person in high school. And, I have very limited circle of friends, right? We're all very introverts, and we're all very, just very in the books and study and do our work, right? We don't go and party. We don't have a lot of friends. And all our friends are probably, going home and study and do their homework too. But when you come to Tzu Ji, you get to learn these people. They're very different, but they're all kind-hearted. You can foster very good relations and affinity with all these people. They would help you, get a better view of yourself, get a better confidence, and all of these things will elevate the moment that you come into this group. That's why Master gave us this position, this location, so that we can have a good place to grow our affinity, to grow our personal betterment here. Okay. And now back to Kati.
Okay, Kanan, Brother Joe, for sharing. So for North Zone, we have a question here. So maybe you want to...
It's okay. It's okay. It might not be a question. It could be just anything.
I don't really have a question. I'm being requested to share. I'm a new volunteer. I've not done any volunteering. I just attended the training session last Sunday at the HQ, Tzu Chi. My fellow, mate, Yan Lin, she introduced me to Tzu Chi. We were both actually from the NDP contingent actually. Basically, I just want to say a simple thing. Like what you mentioned, accepting our that we are not perfect is very important in life. That it's like a blessing, because many people feel like what you said, a lot of things are not fair. Why the other person has this and I don't have this and all that. But when you are able to accept your blessings and that you are not perfect, and your willingness to learn till your last day on earth itself is really a good thing, I feel. That itself is a blessing, I feel. And also, one more thing I would like to say is humility. You know, I think that lacks in a lot of people these days. A lot of people I meet, I find that they lack that in our current society. Be humble. You might be the richest man, maybe the millionaire in the world or in Singapore, but being humble is very important. This one I actually learned from one of my previous job as in the admin side. One of my manager told me, if you are humble and you are willing to learn, you can ask anyone anything, and they're willing to help you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for coming to Tzu Chi. And I hope that this is the place you will find more humble people. People here are all very interesting, and they're interested to learn to become better selves. I don't think people come here to become better selves, but in the process of helping others, I remember I joined Tzu Chi just because I want to help other people. And this is an organization that does that. And I know by my own, I can't possibly help all the people I want to help, but I know with the group of people together, we can do more. And then I come in and I realize it's not just helping people that I'm looking for, but it's also this camaraderie and also the environment. It allows me to somehow become better. And I used to be, thinking that I got to where I am because I work for it. But then I realized that, perhaps it's the past life where I did something right. So good fortunes fall on me. So now I need to work hard, not for myself, but I need to let other people so that they have the opportunity to plant for their future, because I am the beneficiary of the law of karma, and I'm very blessed. It's not like I'm rich, but I'm healthy. I have good relations with all the people around me. I have a good calling in terms of my job, in terms of my life. I know the directions of my life. I think I'm very fortunate already. People might still be looking for directions in life, but I already found mine. So I'm very fortunate. And I owe it to my past lifetime where I worked hard and that it did something right. So I'm glad that I did. So what I can do now is to make sure that at the same time, I help others to plant the good seeds for their very good future. So this is the place where we can do all these things, whether you want to help others or not, whether you want to better yourself or not. This is a place to meet and find all the role models and all the good people, humbling people, good people, nice people who can inspire you to become better. And I think that's what Tzu Chi is really about. It's not just helping the poor, the sick, and etc. It's really there to, do more. Just like what in the story talks about, true sight. It's not just helping the ones that are poor, but really see what they need, right? They're poor not because of right now, but what they have done in the past. And they didn't know it. They didn't know the law of karma, and we know. So let's give them opportunity so that they are able to give back too. Now, slowly they're accumulating their merits. Slowly they're doing something. Not only does it make them more confident, self-respect goes higher because now they're helping others, but they're also accumulating this merit that's unknown to them. That's good. That's good. And maybe in the future, in the future generation or whatnot, they might be making something much better turn for their lives. So I think we're all learning something, and we're all getting to know something. We're making good affinity, and that's very important. So this is a good environment, and we welcome you to be here. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Brother Joe. So, any more last question before we move to a group discussion session? Okay, so no more questions. So, thank you, Brother Joe. We will move to the group discussion, but before that, let's pay respect to Buddha. Just give me a minute. Okay, brother and sister, let's rise. Let's put our palms together to pay respect to Buddha and Master with 3 bows. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brother Joe. Thanks for your session. So we have discussion. I think all the various sites would have
Thank
their
you, Brother
own
Joe.
offline discussion. Thank you very much. Thank you, Brother Joe, again.
Thank you.
Okay, Soft Zoom will off. We will leave the Zoom. Thank you very much.